While you're doing that, I'm Jamie Drummer-Hauser. I'm the Elsevier rep. I cover a couple of states here. I'm a Long Island guy. I get the opportunity to cover the Midwest, which I absolutely love. And I honestly do. I never get an opportunity to come out to this part of the country. And now that I have the ability to do so, I'm on vacation out here now with my family. We're taking to Nashville. We've done some things. Because we're on the coast a lot, right? And we don't get to see the beauty of the middle of the coast. But in any event, ClinicalKey, and as you guys are starting to just get into lunch, as you know, ClinicalKey is all the books, the journals, the all the clinics in North America. So all the specialty and specialist information that's out there. We're the organization that puts out the, obviously, as you know, the copyright cleared evidence-based information. You have ClinicalKey today. Your folks use ClinicalKey today. I sell a lot of our tool on this solution to chief academic officers, librarians, folks within medical education, preceptors are starting to use our tool as well with residents. What we did was we took ClinicalKey, which you all know and used for many years, and we understood where the market was going, and we understood that AI technology is here, and it's here to stay, and we need to adapt. We also are very transparent in the fact that we understand our wheelhouse. We're not a tech company, right? We're a content expert company. Right? We understand where our wheelhouse is and what we do best. So we went and we looked to partner with another organization that really had the AI technology we were looking for. So we partnered with an organization called Open Evidence. Many of you might have heard of Open Evidence. In fact, some of your providers and care team members may be using Open Evidence as an AI tool. Some people use ChatGPT and the like. What we did is we said, hey, Open Evidence, you have a great tool, but what you were lacking was the content. We have all the content. We were missing the great AI tool. So there's the marriage. So that's our partnership. We, in essence, get to sell our solution to a health system, to a hospital, to an organization, right? Where they just have a tool that is provided to doctors and the like that they can use it free of charge. Two different tools. We have the content. We own the content. We use their technology. So with that being said, how this helps folks in your positions and what you do with as far as your job. What we have used this tool for, and folks in your organization and others and alike have used it, where they use ClinicalKey to find information that they typically would be looking for and searching for either the books or the journals or the clinics. But what this does is give you the ability to answer the questions that you may have very quickly with the cited evidence. So with that being said, I'm going to show some examples here and throughout the presentation. And if there is an example that you would like me to put in, I could do that for you. What I would encourage you to do is think of a question or something one of the doctors or members of the care team might have came to you with recently, or something where you have to go do some due diligence and look information up, or on the flip side, if there's something that you typically do on each day that you think maybe we can help with that, find that information, let's try that. Give me an example. I'm going to go to my computer now and we'll do a quick demonstration of ClinicalKey AI. And I'll show you the correlation of how this digs right into ClinicalKey, which you're used to today. And again, we did this to move forward with the technology of today and to give you a tool that can enhance your ClinicalKey experience. And what we have done is we have sold this for the last 2 years. So we're 2 years old doing this. We have a number of health systems across the United States that have signed to bring this on board, and they have McLaren is a 12 hospital network up in Michigan. They purchased ClinicalKey AI. They were big ClinicalKey users. Their education department, librarians, and also their GME organization decided to move forward with using ClinicalKey AI and ClinicalKey, and they stopped and banned ChatGPT, Open Evidence, and other solutions into their organization. This is a trusted solution that chief information officers, chief security officers, and the like are very comfortable with because it's got, we do that on purpose. It's only Elsevier content that is in here, books to journals, plus publicly sourced data, CDC, FDA, some, the Lancet, Jack, all that information is in there as well. So if I was a provider or member of a care team, or even somebody within the education department, and I had a question, typically I would use possibly ClinicalKey, or maybe even UpToDate, or another tool to look up that information. So you can see here, the questions are not like a Google search. We're not looking for that. What we're looking for here is for that provider, care team member, or anybody in the education department to ask a question specifically of what's in their head or what they're looking for. So you can see here on the left, these are all prompts that others have put in to my question bank. So I'll take this one for example right here. This is a question that's a ED provider. You just wanted to know the current dosing for acute respiratory distress. So the beauty of ClinicalKey AI is that you can put in a question like this, and it's going to automatically repeat the question to make sure the intent is correct. So it's good if you have a misspelling or abbreviation or whatever it may be, you can put in there. If it's a drug and you may not have the full correct spelling of it, it's going to repurpose, restate the question and make sure the intent is correct. It's going to give you a quick paragraph. And then it's going to give you a bunch of bullets that's going to give you detailed information about that with cited evidence. As you scroll down, you'll see here, we purposely hide the additional information because if you're someone who wants just to click immediate answer, you have that right here. But if we want to get deeper into the information, it's right at your fingertips. Now, let's just say you saw something here that caught your eye. You wanted to go to that citation. You click on it, it goes directly to that evidence. And as you can see here, again, we hide that detail, but it's there, collapse and expand format. Plus, if you want to go direct to ClinicalKey, you just click on it. And it's going to bring you directly into ClinicalKey as you see today. And you can use the tool as you see fit and go into that deep dive evidence. Now, when we go back to ClinicalKey, these are overviews. Here's a journal article. Let's say you wanted to look at that information. You just clicked on that and it'll bring you right to the full text. And again, all that detail is right here as well. They collapse and expand format. Now, if I was a provider or a member of the care team, I also, in the beauty of AI, as you know, gives you the ability to ask follow-up questions that are relevant. With this tool as well, gives you the ability to give us feedback if these answers were helpful or not. We have folks that do monitor that, clinicians that do monitor that feedback and provide information. Your providers will be able to collect CMEs as they get each prompt. We'll give them 0.5 of the CME, and there's also MOC credit as well if they want it. And again, you have the ability to go right to ClinicalKey. If you wanted to ask another question, you just hit new conversation and you begin. Question for any questions on what you guys just saw? And is there any questions you would like for me to put in to get a result? Can't break it. Can't do anything wrong with it. All you can do is ask a question.
And if it doesn't know, because I think last time I was here, we did something that was impossible, and it will say we cannot find any. Basically, there's no answer for your question.
Yeah, guardrails. And thank you for bringing that up. We did that on purpose, right? So these guardrails are set in place, so we try to eliminate any kind of hallucinations or any type of predatory journals that they get in, anything like that could skew an answer. In fact, if we do put an information in there that we cannot yield an answer, it's going to ask you to restate your question, possibly restate your prompt. And we will let you know that we can't answer the question. It's that obvious. We'll tell you that. We will make something up. One of the craziest stories was what's lollipop syndrome. And you put that in ChatGPT and you get like 3 pages. And then you put it in something like this and it says there's no such thing. There's no evidence on it. So that's the difference. And that's why chief security officers and the like folks trust us, because we have that stuff set up in place.
And also when you're getting the references, it's actual journal articles that are referenced. You're not going to be on some wild goose chase, which I'm sure you guys get asked for journals that don't exist or articles that don't exist in those journals or interlibrary loans that you're chasing down that aren't real. So that's where the backbone of ClinicalKey is what powers this, and you know that you're getting that peer-reviewed, most recent evidence in your answers.
If the organization has a subscription to that nature, we also can connect. So that helps as well. So that's those possibilities happen. We do have API ability. So if there is a desire for us to play in your sandbox, we can. And if you guys wanted to just use some of our tools, like we have, like Mayo as an example, uses our ClinicalKey AI tool through the API integration. Mayo, they take bits and pieces of this evidence, put that into their app, right? So they have a different way of doing it, but again, we're going to meet the client where they are as best we can in that respect, because it's, there's bits and pieces of this information that some people may find them valuable. So we understand that. But the latest evidence, the latest information, if it's copyright cleared, it's in here daily. This is updated every night. So you'll get that information.
I know some tools are a little more sensitive to when users come in and say, like, to the AI tools and say, like, actually, you're wrong on that. This is the correct answer. The tool will like change its mind and say something like, sorry, you're correct. I would consider this, is this not as sensitive to that?
Yeah, it won't do that, because the way the technology we use, and in AI world, we use large language models, as we know. And we also use very sensitive technology architecture with RAG technologies, which is retrieval augmented generation. What that does, that's the beauty of why this is different. We're not just going into a large language model and saying, hey, 75 providers asked this same question, and we kind of gave them that answer. We're going to continue to go down that road. That's not what we do. We take pieces of a large language model. We also use that RAG technology. And the difference is the RAG technology, and in lay, it goes and it finds snippets of information that are related to your prompt. So it finds that in our clinical database, again, all the books, all the journals, all the clinics, right? It goes into New England Journal of Medicine, it goes into all the public resource data, CDC, everything, all that information. Finds the snippets plus the large language model, models that together. And that's how you get all the cited evidence. And that's how you get the granular information. And when I talked about finding needle, that's how this does that. Right? I know that's a cliche, but you cannot use a traditional clinical key up-to-date dynamic. You cannot use those traditional point of care solutions and get as granular, as deep, and ask the the comorbidity, the co-complexity question, or the medication question. Those questions can all be asked in here and get that information as quick as you can, as you saw me pull it up. Again, if there a question that you had to research or look, or anything that maybe stumped you, or something that I can just show you kind of how this tool works in your work. Protocol, I'll give you an example. I have an ED provider who is also the head of their sepsis task force, right? And he was like, you know, can this give me the latest evidence? Because every 3 months I have to update the protocol. And it takes him, you know, a couple of nights, a couple hours a night. He looks up information. He did that. It's like within, you know, 15 seconds, 4 sources that I had provided them the information from. That took him time to find, but it showed up relevant to that right away. I mean, here's a protocol on, you know, emergency department evaluation of chest pain using high sensitivity control. Like, this is the kind of information that'll give them. Again, it'll give you a very quick paragraph. It'll state the question, make sure the intent is correct, give you a couple bullets right there, and then give you all that additional information.
And the references would be clickable, like maybe if we go to find.
Yeah, so as a hypothetical, I'm just typing, I just clicked onto this one right here. Station, just clicking for this question that was asked. So this is a question about treatment. And so it gives that. Now here, let's just say you read this first paragraph and you're like, that's interesting. Let me just see if there's some additional information here. Okay, that's great, but I just want this cited info. So you go right there, it brings you right here. And you can see this is Rosen's. So you go right into that, it brings you right to the evidence, right to the deep dive clinical key evidence where you can get the information. However, if you're just looking at this information and you're like, that's great, there's also follow-ups here that are relevant, but you have the ability to either do the deep dive, do the high levels in that collapsed format, and get to the cited evidence very quickly. And then, you know, obviously getting to that granular information that you're looking for that you can provide to that person. And then you just, and then you just have to ask another question, just take your conversation. I would love for somebody to give me an example, because I want you to see how it works in your world. And then what we do here is, if you guys are ever interested, we can give you guys licenses to just, you know, play with it, taste the soup, try it out. You know what I mean? If this is something of value or not. If you had to look up something today, traditionally, what do you go to ClinicalKey, put it in, go to another tool and put information in, or a keyword search like that. Yeah. So the beauty of this is we get rid of the keyword search. You can actually ask a question. Like, instead of putting in the keyword congestive heart failure, put in, give me the latest evidence on congestive heart failure, or what medications are usually given post cardiac surgery, or something of that information. You get that detail with cited evidence on where it came from. I wish I had a problem with this. Or any books you have to find, or any. So if somebody came in and typically said, okay, I'm interested in this information, and I need some further evidence, you would typically start going into a tool like ClinicalKey or what? What would be like a typical first step?
PubMed.
PubMed, right, great, okay, so we like the PubMed. That's good, so that information would be in here, so you would get that information, so can you give me an example? I'll make my own, give me something that you would know.
I did a search recently for the risk of obesity later in life for people who have been in the ICU for long periods.
So, okay, so how would I make?
Pull up the search.
Yeah, no, but so you were looking for what was the?
I was doing like risk of obesity. Long-term patients. Yeah, for long, perfect.
Tell them, just type it away, I could be wrong. Risk assessment of obesity of long-term patients. Anything else?
In the ICU.
In ICU.
It might have been adults, that also probably solved the query.
And the pediatric.
Oh, it was pediatric, it was,
Pediatric. Pediatric.
yes,
Is that, you want me to add more to this prompt, or you think that's fine for this one?
for this example.
All right, let's just see, so I'm gonna ask. So what it's doing, it's going now, it's using what I talked about, those two technologies, it's going, it's finding the information. It's gonna automatically, as we said, restate the question to make sure my intent is correct. And then see how it's spelled out, intensive care unit, right? You know, my misspellings, everything's fine, it's gonna have to give you that one quick paragraph. And then 6, 5, 7 bullets. Real quick, immediate answer. Boom, boom. Now, if you were on the fly, if you were just looking for the quick immediate, if that was what you found, and that was fine, you move on about your day. If you want to look for additional information, you can go to the cited evidence in the bullets. You can also, like you said here, open up this.
How would you edit the thing? Because the information here isn't actually what we were asking.
Okay, we can, we do another
it's-
prompt, that's fair.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Let me go down a little bit.
Oh, so you're asking about predictors.
Okay,
Okay, so
so,
people that were in ICU.
Great.
Which, to be fair, most of what you found was what I was.
yeah, but I want to get more granular to what you want, because that's what we're looking for. See, what I did here is I asked the initial prompt. And kind of like ChatGPT in a way, it's gonna remember your initial prompt and just kind of correlate the next answers to it. So as you scroll down, it looks for any follow-ups. So what was the more granular you were looking for?
I would say like ICU predictors of obesity. Potentially. I'm trying to think. If this was, Is there a correlation of long-term ICU stays and later obesity? Adult onset.
So again, horrible spelling, but again, just state purpose.
Yeah,
Same thing.
They
interesting.
all gave you the same answer?
I mean, you weren't able to find much.
No, I found maybe like one article for this person, so. You know,
It's interesting.
it's making me feel confident and I feel like.
I mean, so let me ask you a question, you may or may not remember, but are any of these references, some of
I don't think so,
Okay.
but I'm sure I saw them. When I was going through.
Now, again, we can ask a follow-up as well on that, and it also gives you relevant follow-up questions. So this is something that we find with residents and younger physicians that this is super helpful. Are any of these interested in or not so much? Which is
What you found, was it about a pediatric patient and then developing?
But the one or two are like, I found one of the articles I sent that was somewhat relevant was. Like longitudinal assessment of like outcomes for pediatric patients who are in the critical care unit due to heart failure. So like getting really specific.
Right.
To specific, and it included a look at. If they ended up dealing with obesity or the opposite? Undernutrition.
Mhm.
Give me the initials, give me the initial, patients, what was the initial thing you had?
But they're, like, what was the first question again?
Yeah, like when you.
What is the risk of obesity after, say, in the critical care unit for pediatric patients?
When you're still, more of a heart failure, what was it? Was there a problem?
I mean, there wasn't like a prompt I was looking for, that was just, it was
It was the article you found.
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
what I
somewhat
found.
related.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to see what maybe we can do.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, that's- yeah.
While she's typing that in,
fun to play with it. Yeah.
also, we do have this on an app. It's actually, I have it on my phone, but it's actually the same look and feel. And we do find that will be a big value with some of the providers, such as care teams and hospitals, residents especially. What was this question?
I'm just trying to think of a different way to ask it, and we might be really searching for that.
Oh.
That's like my science background. Just trying to think of
It's interesting.
So that's another part of this, obviously, you could keep asking questions.
Go down to the.
No, this is good,
Yeah,
especially if
that's
the long-term critical care stays linked to metabolic alterations.
I dug back to my 18 years ago, my drug information class in pharmaceutical.
Can we click on reference one?
We're gonna just like. We're gonna do. Yes, please. I'll just say.
I wanna know if that's the article you found.
Not one of the critically ill. And I will say, because I was struck with it, if I went to strength AI, that was never not.
Oh, so you want to write into clinical key? Okay.
Well-
Got it. Okay.
Okay. This is part of it.
Oh, it's the purpose. Wait, go down. I saw something. Evidence for the best nutritional is not currently available. Oh, but it's.
But they're always.
Okay, finding the quick answer and getting it.
And it at least it gets you to where you can kind of start asking it differently or what references to.
Yeah, that's the beauty of AI, right? So we just want to put it into everyone's hands safely, but also give the power to. I mean, there's going to be AI in almost every single coming forward, right? And for us, we feel that we have the ability to folks that utilize our tool with an AI format that can give them some speed, and give them some agility within the tool to get to things quicker and move on about their day. With the answers that they're looking for. And that's what we're gonna do. So we've invested into this AI tool. We're opening up to every organization that uses ClinicalKey and at least letting you know that this is what you have and making you aware of it, right? So, not everybody is gonna go and jump on it and want it right away, and that's perfectly fine. But we at least wanna let you know what we have available. And hopefully with some of the demonstration that we just did today, you can kind of see how we can get information very quickly, and you can get to the information as you see today within ClinicalKey, but let the power of this AI tool get you that information quicker, and you can get it to the feedback. We're just gonna pointed you in that direction a lot quicker, so you're doing, you can automate it really, and use the power of the AI tool. Again, we're gonna be here for a few more hours, hanging out, so if anybody has a question or anything, absolutely come in and take a look at it. I have a lot of promise from, a lot of emergency room doctors, things like that, but I use this, and we have a lot of preceptors that are starting to walk this showing residents and showing them the deep dive evidence and how you can get to it fairly quickly. That's one of the biggest challenges that we see is in today's, some of the residents and some of the younger providers and care team members coming out are finding that they're going to these AI tools a lot quicker and using these tools and wanting this. And so we're trying to meet those where they are. We also understand the value ClinicalKey brings to an organization and especially within education, right? In the library, how that's important. So we want to make sure that you guys first and foremost know what we have, what's available. And like I said earlier, if this is something that somebody in here really wants to try, maybe utilize, we'll give you free trials, no obligation. It's just, you know, you can't put in patient information, you can't put in a name, right? We're not looking for that. Just basic questions like, you know, find the information on X, Y, and Z, let it do its thing. Come back to you. Thank you, guys.
Another question. So ClinicalKey has a lot of textbooks in it. Can you use it as like a study guide for the textbooks that are in there? Could I say I'm studying for an exam?
So can I give you an example of what I achieve that? Some people say it's, I work with a chief, I'm sorry. I work with a chief academic officer up at McLean. And he's somebody I've worked with for the last 2 years. And when I showed him this tool, he liked it. When I showed him ClinicalKey AI, and this was like really early on, he looked at it, he's like, gee, this is a very good tool. It's like, let me play around with it. So long story short, what this gentleman did, his mindset is, if my students fail, as a chief academic officer, if residents fail, it's on me, it's not on them. And he looks at as, you know, we have to teach our students what they don't know. So what he does is have them do US and exams. And then he has them do 3 or 4 a year, and then he lays pivot tables on them and he says, okay, you know, James Rummerhauser, I'm going to meet with you. Hey, 30% of this area you have no idea about. But you're good here. This 70, you're good. Don't even worry. Let's learn what you don't know. So he takes ClinicalKey AI, he takes a solution from Amboss, and he takes another solution, and he says, for X, Y, and Z, go to Amboss and learn that. For this information, I need you to go to ClinicalKey, type this information in on this subject, go into the evidence, learn, go to deep dive information, learn the foundational knowledge of it, understand it. And what he did was he ran it on this like 2 years in a row now. And the 30%, that example, all of those students increased their scores. So they went from 30% not knowing, now they're all up to about 15% not knowing after doing that, because they just concentrated on what they did. So it's used in education. And again, I have preceptors that now walk in. And when there is a challenge, they will say, hey, this is how I find the information, this deep dive way, we have the ability to do that. So there is lots of different ways that we utilize this tool, whether it be within a library or within a clinical setting. And most of the folks that utilize ClinicalKey AI realize the power of the speed, what it can do.
It won't give you like practice questions or anything like that. No.
Sure. And as we advance, right, everybody is like, what can we do to get granular? So let me tell you about kind of what's on the road now. We're going to get it to where if you're a resident, you're going to be able to toggle down and say, I'm a resident, and it's going to give you relevant information. You can also, it will have persona drop down, so you can basically get more detailed, right? We're also offering this now, ClinicalKey Student, to any of your students, PG years 3 and 4, I believe. I don't know if 1 and 2, but I think 1 and 2, they probably are not, I don't know. But 3 and 4s especially, we give you ClinicalKey Student free. So the students have the ability to use this tool. They'll have the AI feature, safe, responsible, with the detailed information within ClinicalKey, right? So we want to give them the AI tool, but in a safe, responsible way. So they're not using a ChatGPT, things like, for medical information.
Are there guardrails in place here at the hospital about what they can use and what they can't as far as AI tools, or do you know?
I don't think for medical students that there are any, like, you can't, I think they're mostly encouraging AI use, but trying to guide them.
Okay,
Yeah, things like open evidence and they don't want it for clinical work is. I have heard in one person said it.
Other than that, I haven't heard, but.
I think it was in the class that we saw when he
Yeah,
came
so, yeah, that's
Oh,
part of
well,
like,
Yeah, it's kind of
He
all.
doesn't want like clinical information.
it's kind of like what we're trying to do, is just let people know that, you know. Just for, which is. The clinical side, I mean, you know, that's where we talked about organization. The organization, they said, "Ooh, hold on, we're not letting anything like that." And it's gotta be clear, like, I have institutions that are like. ChatGPT, you know, anything free. No, it's free for the product, right? Because it's all your information they collect, right? So that's like, so some organizations are saying no to that stuff because, you know, it's like anything else when it's kind of lost less, right? Until it's still regulation happen. People stop, but yeah, you know, the you don't want to hear the horrible stories that could happen when people, you know, start using ChatGPT for medical information, right? It's gonna make something.
I think they worry a little bit about clinical reasoning as well. Like if it tells you what the protocol is, how do you know define the protocol?
That's, yeah,
And I don't know, for students, it's kind of mixed bag, I think.
that's why the, you know, everything points back to the evidence, and that's where we look at it, whatever's copyright cleared, evidence-based information that is published is what we use, and it's nothing that's not. And everything we have is cited, so that's the.
I just think students might not like click a citation and read it, so just that big. And
That's the foundation, yeah. So that's the foundational knowledge, right? That's the stuff where that most people are afraid of, right? That they'll lose that skill set. You know, my wife's a big like Grey's Anatomy fan, right? And I was watching the show the other night, and Meredith Ray, whatever, she did something with her pinky. In a surgery, I was like, you did it with the pinky. She's like, it's the only tool you really always have. We had to learn it. It's like, that's so true. Like, they had to learn how to do things without the power of technology, right? So it's like kind of the same thing, but that's why that foundation is super important on who you speak. Thank you, guys. I know there may be some others along to do, but again, look, if anybody is interested, give it to you for free, try it out. Let us know if there's, you know, of interest, and you know, it maybe not now, maybe in the future, but you know, we are, you know, excited that you guys use ClinicalKey. We're happy that you're happy using ClinicalKey. And again, the main purpose today is just to let you know what we have out there and what's available to you if you're interested.